Right.
You know?
It's amazing. That's something I gotta say. It's amazing to me how many people are like, I'm gonna start a homemade business. We're gonna make my husband has always liked woodworking, so we're gonna make wooden beer steins. And I'm gonna make doilies. And it's like and then but they don't even count like how much labor goes into it. And
Nope.
I've seen so many. I'm an artist. I'm going to do a bunch of paintings and bring them to the farmer's market. Who are you? Nobody wants to buy your art. They don't know who you are. You know how you get successful at being an artist?
Oh man.
Rich people.
That's right.
What you do is you go to the rich neighborhood or you go to the yacht club and you set up an easel and you start painting pictures of the rich people's boats, and somebody's gonna come by and go, "Oh, look at that! It's Ocean Breeze too. That's my buddy Phil's boat. Hey Phil, look at this girl over here painting a picture of your boat. Oh, I gotta have that. How much? $550. Okay. I mean, that's how you do it. You don't could be like,
yep.
I always liked bunnies and I always liked aliens, so I like to make like bunny aliens, and then they're like so cute. They're $5 a piece. Yeah, I don't want that. I don't care. Where's the CBD?
All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we have another excellent, very exciting interview with David the Good. So if you're unfamiliar with David the Good, we are going to obviously link his channel down below. He has an inordinate amount of wonderful information for you to consume, and he is mildly humorous. So that just makes it's the spoonful of sugar that makes the medicine go down. So true. And coincidentally, as Providence would have it, somehow Matt and myself are both wearing Go Green, Compost a Globalist. Now this, David may or may not know, but this is actually an homage to Compost Your Enemies.
Exactly.
Yep. So welcome to the channel, David. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. I mean, it's raining outside, so instead of gardening, I'm talking to you guys.
Yeah, that is great. It just
second best, but not terrible.
It just so happens to be raining here. Yep. And so this was perfect
so we're all
timing.
Together.
Yep. Yeah. So we're gonna be enjoying this conversation. So what we wanted to ask you, this is actually my wife's idea. She said, talk to David about raising the next generation of homesteaders, right? Because we're seeing a shift, we're seeing a change in the culture, and some of these shifts are being kind of foisted upon us, even without our consent and different things like that. So we wanted to, I mean, you are the survivalist gardener. So we wanted to talk to you about that next generation, raising the next generations of homesteaders. So I think you have like 10 kids. Yep.
10 kids, one on the way.
Awesome.
So I'm going to be counting on my toes as well very, very soon here.
You are very fruitful. And therefore, in order to feed all those hungry mouths, that's quite a motivating factor there.
Yeah, and the older I've gotten, the more I realized how completely corrupt the food supply is, and how many ways we have been lied to constantly. Yeah. I mean, you go in the grocery store and you see what looks like a whole bunch of different choices, and then if you really look at it, you realize it's not. Like a few big factories and big companies that are controlling almost everything. A division of Procter & Gamble, a division of Procter & Gamble. It's like over and over and over again, a division of such and such brands, such and such foods, whatever. And the chicanery that is going on with the labeling of food. How much do you trust it? My trust level has gone way down over the years, and it almost feels overwhelming, because it's like, we're going to have to produce everything. We're going to have to produce our own meat and our own vegetables and our own oils. And it's like, I mean, you got a job. How are you going to, how are you also going to take care of your entire food supply at the same time if you realize like everything is being poisoned and everything's getting corrupt?
Yeah.
It's overwhelming.
And you know, literally right before we went on, my wife called me in utter frustration. Now, the good news about the phone call is she wasn't frustrated with me. So that's always the first thing I want to check. Okay, so
Good. Yeah,
babe,
good.
I didn't do anything wrong, right? No. But what they wanted to do, so we had this kerfuffle a couple of weeks ago where she bought some chocolate that was bioengineered, and she was trying to do
not on purpose, though.
Yeah, she was trying to do
Not
an
on
act of
purpose.
kindness to me, and she gets me this bag of very expensive chocolates with dark chocolate with almonds, and I immediately flipped it over and I said, babe, this is made with like bioengineered material. I'm like, we have to throw this out. And so we throw it out. So she got very angry. Well, so lo and behold,
With the chocolate.
yeah,
not
with
you.
the chocolate, not with me once again. So that's good news. But so they go back to they ran to town to get some chick starter or something, and she's like, well, now that we can't buy pre-made, you know, little chocolate things or whatever, we'll make our own. So I think she sent Buddy, and she's like, go looking for some like dark chocolate bars or something. So he comes back, and she was like, it's the same deal. Like, these are all, you know, and it speaks to your point about this consolidation of manufacturing.
Yeah,
I mean, you're dealing. Yeah. So where do you get cacao in North America? I mean, that's definitely a tropical fruit. That's I mean, how do you make your own chocolate?
Yeah, it's impossible. I mean, where I used to be in the West Indies, chocolate was one of their main exports as cacao, and you could go and you could get buckets of organic like chocolate, like fresh off, right? So they would ferment it. Some people would sell it wet right to the cocoa manufacturer location, and they would pile up banana leaves and stuff over it, just let like fruit flies and stuff eat all the top of it off, and then that fermented bean that was in the middle, after that stuff had kind of soaked in and rotted away, it would get hot like a compost pile. It was awesome. It was really fun to watch, like slick and hot. Then you smell this kind of that weird fruity alcoholic type of smell of like, whoa, it's weird. It's like there's some chocolate in there, but it's you eat it fresh and it's just like wildly bitter, and then it would dry out and some of that flavor starts to come in, and then they roasted it. And I knew a guy that was doing the whole thing. You know, he had about 1/2 an acre of cocoa trees, and he was making his own chocolate and selling these boutique bars, and he had just opened a location to retail his chocolate to all the tourists and everybody that would come in. And then COVID hit, and they locked everything down for months, and all of the effort he had just put into opening this location was all lost. He had to give it up, and they kept trying to, you know, landlord kept trying to take the rent on him and everything. But, you know, if you look at some of these things, we never would have heard of or had if it wasn't for globalization to begin with, of the trade, right? So we miss chocolate because we know of chocolate. But if we, you know, here in North America, chocolate is not anything natural that we ever would have encountered.
Yeah, exactly.
So what would we have had, you know? Probably, you know, tea. you know, like Yapan tea or roast chicory root or something like that.
Yeah.
If you had it, if you hadn't have already been exposed to chocolate. But now once you've had chocolate, you have to have chocolate.
Yes, that's true.
It's like once you've had a good cigar, you know these things exist. So, you know, where you're going to go with it. But yeah, it is frustrating to see how many great things they start excellently, and then there's just enough corruption in it to be like, oh, there we go. Now I can't have that thing. It would have been awesome. Like how hard is it to just put some pigs out and to smoke some of the meat and make bacon out of it without adding, you know, 13 different ingredients to it?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But,
And
you know,
and what's more fascinating is how these transnational corporations have went out of their way to buy up all the little organic Burt's Bees and all. I mean, it is obviously, you know, we talk about the systematic war against our food, and that is absolutely, I mean, and this has been 100 years in the making of this consolidation of power. And much like the the global consolidation of power when it comes to governance. I mean, these transnational corporations have been doing the same thing lockstep, and it's quite the conspiracy. It's definitely some tinfoil hat level stuff that 5 years ago you would be like, do what? But now you're like, oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah, you realize how much you need to. I mean, it really is just a call to go back and relocalize and make a family economy again.
That's right. A family economy. So expand on that. That sounds great.
Yeah, get your kids out of the system as much as possible with mom and dad, working on your own land, making a business that's local. I mean, I've been trying to figure this out. I spent 10 years writing gardening articles and posts on the blog, and then doing YouTube videos and stuff like that to get enough of a platform in order to sell books and promulgate the information. So what I do is I write books for a living, but book writing is not like a local business, in the sense that if the internet shuts down at this point, the distribution system is completely broken. It's not like, you can, I don't know how they did it in the past, probably transporting book by wagon from place to place and buying in lots. And, now if anybody wants to get my book, they would probably go to Amazon first. Secondarily, you could go to your local bookstore and then ask them, do you have any David the Good books? And then they could order from Ingram Distribution, which is the big distributor, which also does the printing for my books. Amazon orders from them. So I do have distribution. But what is my local business? That's that's something I've been chewing on for a while. Yeah, we grow enough food to feed ourselves, but there's also things that need to be paid. I have a mortgage now. I didn't have a mortgage for a long time, but we had to get land. So here we are. We're stuck back in the mortgage system. So there has to be something. If the big global system cracks up, and you can't order from Amazon, I mean, it could happen any number of ways. You could have a fuel supply issue. You could have a banking crisis. You could have a lockup in the credit system. You could they could just decide that they don't. The big companies have said they don't want people gardening or whatever. I mean, how far out there you want to get? There's many ways it could break. A solar flare could break it. A world war could break it. Whatever. And then where is my income? I don't have any. Right. So looking back at family economy, there was something we did before we moved overseas, and that was we had a backyard plant nursery. So a lot of the trees that I was growing, it's easy to take care of a few more and to have them for sale.
Yeah, great idea.
And we've got some dairy cows, and there's demand for raw milk. So that's something, and you could expand and grow more produce. And if the United States breaks up into a bunch of little pieces, some warlord is probably going to be like, I want that guy. He's actually got a useful skill set. Somebody's got to grow food,
That's true. Yeah.
So, but you kind of got to look at what did people used to do as families. Usually the husband and wife worked together, even though the roles were generally different. She was the keeper of the house, and he was the keeper of the outdoors, and there was a lot of overlap in that. One day she might be helping him haul wood, and another day, he might be helping her replaster a wall inside. But there was you see your family. It's not like your wife goes off and she goes and works for some other guy all day and then kind of comes back, and your kids have been shipped off to some strangers in a daycare and then off to be educated or mal-educated by strangers in a public school. We had everybody was kind of working together on the family business and getting a piece of it. And now, of course, your kids could reject it later and be like, I mean, people have written me, my grandpa used to make us hoe weeds, and we had to hoe weeds until really late, and we were starving, and it was so terrible, and so I never wanted to garden again. Well, that can happen. Yeah. But I mean, on the upside, you actually know how to hoe weeds.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So if you had to, maybe you don't ever want to. I mean, there's lots of things I don't want to do.
Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
really like chainsawing trees into pieces and like just being out there cutting and dragging and throwing. I don't enjoy that much, especially when it's hot out.
Yeah.
But I know how to do it,
The beauty of living in a very poorly written dystopian novel like 1984 is, as you're rearing and training children and the next generation, it's you can very easily now you can go, hey, you see that you want to know why we grow our own food? Look at that food line, or look at that empty shelf. And so, whereas in Plenteous, like, oh, my peepaw or whatever in the 70s or 80s or whatever, and now I hate it, is now we can, with every adversity comes an equal or greater benefit. And these adversities have been creating, at minimum, at least wonderful illustrations to say, look, this is why we do what we do. And children can see more value in it to say, oh, okay, yeah, it is hard work. It is artisan. It is old school or whatever. But we can see why this is all being done, and why mom and dad say, yeah, we should do this together as a family and as a family economy.
Yeah. And you can see how people's choices lead to where they are. There's kind of I can't help it. I mean, it's probably cruel, but if I'm out shopping in the grocery store, I can't help but look at what the person looks like and then look at what is in his cart.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's very predictive. Yeah.
I was passed by a nurse, and she was like 300 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And she was loading her cart up with all this pre-made
packaged
food, right? All this pre-packaged stuff. And she passes me and like puts something in the cart, and I'm like, that's a nurse.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of look at the cart, and I'm like, chocolate milk and Eggo waffles.
Yeah.
Well, how did we get here? You get
Right. So terrible.
one bite at a time, but but you could see how your choices. And I know, the more time I spend in the garden and in nature and not reading the headlines, the better I feel too.
Yes,
So
100%.
Psychological aspect to it. You go outside and you do hard labor. Stop sitting around and biting your nails.
Right.
And then checking the news, and then watching some garbage television show, some garbage movie. I got rid of my smartphone and I replaced it with this little light phone.
Yeah, there you go.
Texts, and it calls, and it's not even great at either of those things. And I haven't had it plugged in now for like 5 days, so people keep writing my wife and saying, is he all right? Because you're just like, who cares? My wife has a smartphone. We have one smartphone, so this is the smartphone, and that phone we use to record YouTube shorts and stuff like that. But most of the time, I have it in here because I was just editing a short and posting it. But most of the time, my wife has that just like locked up in the room, like charging. So there's it just sits there, and like just not being connected to it and actually going out and doing something. Almost anything outside is good for your soul too. And
100%.
And I know you'll notice that your kids are a lot happier if they're not glued to screens, not watching movies, not playing video games. Kids used to play video games, and we just threw it out completely. We're like, we're not going to do that anymore. We just don't even do it at all. I mean, that's like kind of extreme. But it was like 4 or 5 years ago, we finally were like, this is enough. Because one kid would be playing a video game, and then all the little ones, like all the like 1 year old,
and watch.
And they look dead.
They're
staring at the stupid, whatever. And it's not even that the games
Black
are
Mirror.
that bad. And I was like, I hate this. This is our house. If they want to have it and play video games when they get older or whatever, they can do that later. But so there was a lot of, oh, we don't like this, and we don't think it's fair, and could we just play games like occasionally, or could we play games with the little ones who are not around, everything. And then we're just like, nah, we're just not gonna do it. It just doesn't work. We had brought it back 1 or 2 times, and they were like, you know what, it's just like, there's no value in it.
Right.
So now there's a lot of like they readjusted, and they don't even expect that they would ever play video games. So it's kind of interesting how they've readjusted, and they started building forts and playing a lot of board games. They'll play board games with each other, or they started reading more. But you know, a lot of these initial fights, it seems like, you know, it would be just easier to give in. But every time you give in on some little thing, you know, it makes it easier to give in on the next thing. You haven't built any character, and it's not going to kill your kids if they don't play video games.
And I think that's how we lost. You know, we lost the family economy one inch at a time. You know, and in my opinion, the family economy is going to be quintessential. You know, we started talking about this on the channel, and really, as I was talking to my wife, our paradigm completely shifted as far as wealth and inheritance. And I said, you know, what doesn't it make sense to give your children their inheritance while you're alive and they're alive, and you would enjoy it together and instruct them together? And so, you know, we started buying dirt, and now we have like a little 25-acre ranch. And then we just bought another 14 acres, and the boys are looking to, you know, Matt's starting to build a pad and planning out his, you know, future home site and these different things. And that's the family economy, where instead of, okay, we're going to train you, we're going to teach you. And, you know, churches, you know, this whole thing has been so pervasive. It's just like with biblical education, where these churches will send their kids off to these other universities that, I mean, in large part, people have no full understanding what's actually being taught, because these I don't want to start bagging on cemeteries or anything. Oh, I just did. I'm sorry about that. But it's the same thing with the family economy. Like if you trained and raise your kids and they each have the skills, like you have 10 children, and you'll notice that they all have these different skills. They're all different in their own way. They have these different areas of interest, but that, you know, Hillary tried to say it took a village to raise an idiot, but really what we have is, you know, a family is a village, right? And if we do this family economy thing right, and I mean, this starts to get really big when you think about capturing family dollars as a family. And my buddy Chuck, that's been on the channel a couple of times, he does what's called family banking, and we're beginning to implement that, you know, where you are developing your wealth and your assets as a family. And it's incredibly powerful. And that power is just like the family working together as a unit, and everybody developing different trades and skills, and then incorporating them together as a whole. And you literally, people are like, oh, I'm looking for community. Well, you know, if you have kids.
You ran away from your family. I mean,
right.
Like, so I'm one of 7 siblings. A few of them live in South Florida. Another one lives, you know, way up north in Yankee Land. Another one's in Virginia. Another one's in Georgia, and we're over here in Bama, and we don't have anybody within 3 hours is our closest family member. So we had a close family, but we were all in the city, and the city's too expensive. So everybody's spread out to places where they could afford or get a job or found a spouse or whatever else. And it's really kind of sad.
Yeah.
Because when the whole family was together and we were younger, we could get a ton of stuff done. Now, on the other hand, they've gone and become, you know, members of the community wherever they went. Mm-hmm. But there is something really awesome to having the family working together on projects. And also, you're not looking forwards and saying, you know, I worked hard for my money and I'm going to spend it, and I'm going to go get an RV and play pickleball and talk about how stupid millennials are. It's like, well, those are your kids.
Exactly.
No, you raised them.
Right.
Why can't they change a tire or type?
Yeah, you did that. Like,
that's your fault.
Don't complain about it. You did it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, it's sad. It's sad. And
it's deconstructionism. I mean,
and it is. The individual is the end of all things. I judge what religion I think is the most appropriate to me, and I can change my mind and pick and choose whatever I want. I can choose whatever I want to do with my body. I can choose whatever I want to do, with my money and everything else. Like we are the God of our own lives, and if you don't have any God above you that says, you know what, your life is like a vapor. You're like the green grass that it's cut and it withers away. You may flower for a time, but the flower is going to fall. If you're not thinking to the next generation, if you don't have any eternal thinking, eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die. It doesn't matter what happens to my kids. I guess they'll find their own way, like I did, man. And they should have to go start at the crummiest job possible, because that's what I did. I worked for $2 an hour digging ditches, and I paid for my entire college education that way. It's like it's not the same economy that you had, but it's also yes, you should do hard things to learn character. You shouldn't just dump money on your kids in lieu of giving them skills. I mean, you're much better off probably almost being too harsh than you would be with being too lenient. If you raise like worthless kids. I mean, there's some guys like, my dad used to beat me, but man, if I didn't put the transmission back on properly when I was 8, he would beat me. And it's like, you know how to put a transmission on when you're 8. Occasional beating, it's not a bad trade. I don't know. ASB certification costs. But anyhow, sometimes it's like you get really like I could be really upset when I have to go do something, or I could roll with it and say, well, this is what I got to do, and you do it. But having some guidance and working alongside someone, I think, is the very best way to learn. And if you have a skill that you're good at and your kids don't learn it, it's kind of sad, because they should be around you all the time. And
that's great.
And back to, do my kids like gardening and coming along with us in the garden, which we were talking about before we started. Some of my children really like to garden with me. Some of them will garden with me just because they like me, but they don't really care about gardening. Some of them don't really care to go work with me in the garden that much at all. Like the gardening is like, they'll do it if they have to, but there's something else that, they'd rather do. It's, we require a certain amount of work to be done in order to keep the family going, right? Like they know that if the garden is a total mess and the weeds get out of control and everything else, daddy can't go film a decent looking YouTube video. So if it looks like we put all this effort in and then we don't take care of it, or if I'm sick, like I was sick for a couple of weeks, they kept things moving and going when I was just like, oh my goodness, I'm so dead, They just kept it rolling for me, and that's great. And it's and also they reap the benefit of the hundreds of pounds of potatoes we're going to pull in, and the eggs coming from the chickens, and then the cows that we take care of. All that manure goes and feeds the gardens, which then gives us fresh vegetables and fruits and all kinds of other things. So I can't complain. I know that I didn't always want to help my dad when I was younger, and I used to argue with him, and Dad, I wanted to do this, and Dad, I wanted to do this, but my dad is gone now, and if I look back, it's like, man, what I would give to have like one more day, like if I could garden with my dad again, you just think about it and go. And I think one day the kids will look back and they'll be like, I didn't really enjoy doing all that hoeing and digging and stuff like that, but my parents loved me. We loved each other. We got, we did a lot. They'll have stuff to tell their kids. Oh, I remember when we tried to grow this, or I remember when the pigs got out. It's good family, and it's not just everybody sitting around being his or her own highly expressive individual running off and doing whatever, atomistically.
And that whole notion of we are our own person and, we have all this autonomy, it's very interesting that the Tavistock Institute that created that are now the same people that are explaining to us how we need to sacrifice for the greater good. When in reality, if as a family economy, if we would teach and train and raise and rear our posterity, the next generation within that family economy to understand that, yeah, we do all work together and we do sacrifice for the greater good. And the greater good is for the advancement of the kingdom and for the advancement of our family as a unit. And as our family advances as a unit, when Matt goes to build his house, right, he's not going to be doing it by himself.
Right. When I was your age, you just get out there and you can't borrow the car, Matt. You got to take your bicycle and, get each 100-pound bag of concrete, one by one.
Yep. Yeah. And I think I've met so many kids that they're like, man, as soon as I turn 18, I'm leaving this place. I'm
out of here.
I'm out of here. See you later. And it's just so sad because, and I think also it's the parents' fault too, because they haven't raised. When I hear kids say that, I'm like, oh, there you go. Red flag, for me anyway, and then I'll hear the parents talk and I'm like, oh, well, there you go. Because, the parents,
done this, and he's never done this, and he's like this, and it's like,
yep. Degrading.
I do think it's something that we have to always do to bite our tongues, because the tongue is like the tongue is a restless evil full of deadly poison. It's you can wound somebody so badly by not holding your tongue, and we'll do it even without thinking about it. I listen to moms or dads talking about the kid's right over there, and he's like, well, he's never really wanted to push himself, and blah 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 blah, and it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I mean, just shut all the negative off.
Yeah.
You can have those conversations with your kid. Like, you take them out to lunch or something and say, hey, I am worried that you're not pushing hard enough, because if you get in a situation like, if you were working for a boss instead of me and you had just ditched the job in the middle like that, you'd be fired and you wouldn't be able to pay for your rent and stuff like that. How can I help you to understand, to push? Do you see something in me like that? Am I walking away? Like, I'm going to try and continue as best as I can. I need your help too. And I absolutely know you can do it.
Yeah.
And they should be hearing you praising them when you're talking to other people, not talking them down, because just, I mean, your entire day could change if, okay. So I was in line at the hardware store, and this woman in front of us and her husband were there, and they were obviously trying to do one of those weekend warrior projects where they had a bunch of stuff and they had like a bag of something, and they're like, oh, did you get the UPC number off of this? And they're like, oh gosh, sorry, no, we didn't get that. Oh, what row was that in? And she turns around, she's like, you know how those days go? Oh, like, it's just like every little thing, and it's like we've been on it. And I said, no, I said, it's perfectly fine. I can wait here. I said, you know what's awesome? Is that you and your husband are working on a project together. I said, what a blessing.
That's
I said,
great.
like it's like a date, right? I said, the two of you are out here. I said, so what if you don't have the UPC? I said, you get to go home and work on a project with the person you love. And she's like,
perspective.
oh. She goes, I do love him. Yeah, you're right. I just, the date that started out bad. That's what she's like. You're right. We should give thanks to the Lord for everything, right? And I'm like,
wow.
Yeah, we should. It's usually me that's going, dang it, kids, why did you put the stupid thing? Why did you leave that right? We should not be hitting a hammer with the lawnmower. Why was the hammer there? It could have gone through the window or your head. You're like, the hammer should not be in the lawnmower. But
exactly.
Later, it's like, well, thank you, Lord, that hammer did not go through that kid's head, even though he just said, no, back up. We all deserve hammers to go through our heads, but you don't take us from that, oh Lord. You kind of got to always back up.
Yeah.
But it's like, hold that thing.
Yeah.
Hold that thing before you burn everything down.
Yeah, that's right.
So easy.
And it's so amazing how if you hold this family economy idea and you put that concept in your children's mind,
plant the seed.
and then they understand, like, we're all in this together.
Yeah, we're one big family team.
We're working together to a common end, and that common end includes you.
Everyone.
I'm not trying to accumulate wealth so that I can buy a bass boat and drown worms, and this speaks directly to the Weimar concept of retirement, that was purposefully set outside of life expectancy as a way to fleece people of their state-sponsored retirement income. But I don't believe that any man should quote unquote retire or go to the bed for the last time. We should always be working, even if it's just alongside of the next generation, imparting wisdom and instructing. Maybe, I have severe, my left shoulder is kind of smoked, so it's created a lot of my physical abilities aren't what they used to be just a couple short years ago, but I still have a mind that works pretty well sometimes, and I still have the ability to generate revenue and income. And if we can capture that and we can create like a solarium, or if we can create an internal system where we can bring those dollars in, capture them, and then keep them inside of our family economy, and then we generate other revenue streams that creates these streams of income that's bringing in that. I mean, this idea is so powerful. And it's amazing, and people are always like, oh, what can I do? But what should I do next? Ideas are so powerful, and then just implementing very simple concepts. Now, they're always powerful over. It's just like when you're planting a garden, right? All the preparation that goes into it, and you put the seed in. Okay, I put the seed in the ground. I'm going to count to 20. And I'm going to open my eyes, right? No, you're going to have to wait. And it's the same thing with everything, with wealth or prosperity or abundance. It requires
time.
A period of time, and there's no such thing as getting rich quick.
And work and dedication.
Yeah.
You got to hoe the garden. You got to water it, maintain it,
That's right.
I mean,
you get out of shape and more negative if you feed that, and you will get in shape and more positive if you feed that. It's like your decisions that you make day by day, especially when you're under pressure and you still press forwards, that effort over time, when somebody says, how long do you have to spend in your garden? Well, it's a huge project if you ignore it for a month.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But if you spend 10 or 15 minutes a day out there, it's like, it's getting cooler. The sun is starting to go down. It's beautiful outside. Let's go out and pull a few weeds for a bit. The stuff it's not that big a deal, but it's like, if you've gone your entire child's life without ever directing, and without saying, look at, first of all, everything that I own is the Lord's, and I'm just the steward of it. So I'm taking care of it for a period of time.
Yeah.
It's in my hands, but it's not mine.
Right.
But he asked me to work with it and to get as much increase as possible, so I can give more. And so I can, I said, if you're you're faithful in a little, you could be faithful in a lot. The Lord will give you more. But secondarily, this is all coming to you as well. So if you're helping us manage it and it's working well, and they understand that from the time they're little, that you're not just doing all this so you can get your bass boat,
Yeah.
And maybe if you do great and you get a bass boat, that's the family bass boat. There's nothing wrong with having something like that.
No,
exactly.
No.
Yeah.
But there's a what are you using it for? I mean, if you have a great big house and you can't stand people and you just live in there like a recluse and you swim around in your money. That's one thing. But I've been to people's houses. I went to, I don't know if you guys know Perry Hill Farms. Perry Hill Farms, they have a little YouTube channel. It's two twin sisters. They both married men named Eric, and which is hilarious. Two girls, they're not that old. They're like middle-aged, but they have grandkids, young grandkids, and they've got family, and they've bought multiple houses in a neighborhood, and they have this nice piece of property that's out in this beautiful little area, and they've got their pigs and everything going out there. It's a beautiful property. And it's just somebody might come and go, oh, why do they have such a nice piece of land? And they're so lucky and blah, blah, blah. But they hosted something like 60 different people over there when we were doing the Keepers of the Old Ways. Like one house, they emptied the upstairs for us and let all my family cram into the upstairs of one of their houses. We never even met this gal in person before. And she's like, come in our house. Oh, we've got tons of food. Oh, come over and we'll have some more food. And they had like a smokehouse, and they'd smoked all these pork butts, and they just had tons of people. There were people everywhere. There were kids like just swirling through the mix and dogs everywhere and stuff. So they had this beautiful property, but it's even more beautiful because they're just like, hey, you're my friend, you're my family or whatever. Come on in. Oh, you're family now. Here, have some pork, have some.
Yeah, that's great. That's neat.
And we were just like, we were instantly at home, and I felt like I was at a family reunion, even though half of the people I barely knew and other people I was just meeting. But there was that sense of, open-handedness. And if you have that open-handedness with your children too, to knowing like if your kid is starting a business and you're like, yeah, good luck, you better go work at McDonald's for 5 years and save up your money. There's nothing wrong with saying, all right, I'm going to give you $2,000 worth of seed money, and I'm going to help you roll with it. Let me call my accountant and see if we could figure out what we need to do to get you incorporated. And if you need to, because you're too young, we could have a joint bank account so you could get started. And then, you can do these things to be like, here, go ahead. You see that interest right there. How could we push that? And it's easier if it's something you understand. I mean, if they wanted to start like an NFT company or something, you might be like, yeah, I don't know. Good luck, I was going to start a CBD outlet. Okay, that's not the economy right now.
Oh man,
that's a really good point. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I was just listening to one, and that is a very prevailing thought of, and this is the beauty of homesteading, in my opinion, that kind of counterbalances all this. But he was like, and it was this techie startup guy, and I've created all this wealth, and I am not going to give it to my children. I'm going to give it to some NGO or whatever. It's so hilarious, right? I'm going to give it to some NGO because they need to work just as hard as I did, and that way they'll appreciate it. And that concept is so antithetical. It's so pervasive, and it's antithetical to society, and it's and it's because but that's the beauty of growing up on a homestead, having young children, right, and doing all the hard stuff. I mean, this stuff isn't like a garden doesn't plant itself, it doesn't weed itself,
till itself.
The vegetables don't pick themselves, and it requires work, effort, sweat equity, and that's something that a family can do together. And, as children grow older, they can do more of it and develop more skills. But that is a very and that allows you as parents to insert difficulty, because here's the reality, right? And we've all struggled with gardens, and sometimes stuff doesn't go. Sometimes there's hail, sometimes there's a drought. There's things that are completely out of our control that can destroy whole crops and devastate a lot of hard work, right? But having a homestead, growing your own food, is a way that you can literally interject hardship into your children's life, that it's not like walk the railroad tracks and dodge the oncoming speeding train or anything. It's a way that we can in a very controlled way and environment interject hardship into our children's life so that they can experience it, but that we can all grow together as a family and appreciate life and what it takes to be a family.
And to have joy in working together too. If you are not maintaining joy, as my friend Noah Sanders likes to say, if you are not being joyful, you're not working as unto the Lord. You're not. You should be joyful as you work, and deliberately try to we are going to press on and we're going to get this done, and it's going to feel good because we got something good done. Yeah. But I think that point is really important about having some adversity too. And I think that's why a lot of people are like, you know what, I'm just going to give all my money away, because if my kids don't have any adversity, they're imagining, okay, their kid is just going to be pampered to death, eat whatever he likes, have a big, beautiful bed to sleep in. The AC is always at 72 degrees. And they're just going to get a brand new car when they turn 16 and whatever. They're just imagining this really cushy life. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we've seen this in the leaders of nations in the past, where you have a really good Caesar, and then his kid ends up just being I'm writing poetry, and then burning people alive, right? And you're like, what happened to that guy? Well, he didn't go fight in the Gaelic wars, and he got a little Gaelic himself, and here he is, burning people alive. I don't know. They lost something kind of in this. There was no adversity. It's you're just raised in the palace, surrounded by a bunch of eunuchs, mixing perfumes or something. You've never been on the front. You never fought for anything, kid. Go to McDonald's and fight in the trenches like I did.
In front of the French fryer.
You were enslaved in front of a French fryer in the Gaelic provinces. Yeah. I don't know. I might have stretched that a little bit. That might be a little weird. But
maybe.
I've read a lot of Roman history over the years. But anyhow, the idea of having some adversity that is valuable. There has to be a building of character along with it, and you had better be. You shouldn't be sitting there, smoking your cigar with a beer on the porch, going, "Okay, kids, you missed some sticks over there. Pick those sticks up too."
Yeah, you have to be to set the example. Be the example.
You've got to buffet your body and you've got to push it. You're just gonna have to push it.
Yeah.
Lead by example, as they say.
Exactly.
Yeah. Which reminds me, coming back around to the idea of having your close economy compared to your online economy. It's great to make money on YouTube. And to, for me to have the books and the articles and stuff like that. I wrote some articles for Mother Earth News and for prepper websites. It's online stuff. And I used to do radio editing work that was almost all online. I rarely had to go to location. They would just send me the material. I'd clean it all up, make it beautiful, send it back. So it was all the online job. But when I started a little plant nursery, I think it was back in about 2013, I had a plant nursery for a few years before we moved overseas. Suddenly my kids could be actively involved in it, and they could actively make money. So one of my kids liked cactuses, so he propagated cactuses, put them out for sale, and if they sold at our plant booth when we went to the farmer's market, he made the money off it. I didn't care. My kids could not directly compete with my main crops, so I didn't let them go duplicate the stuff that was my main stuff. So they had to find their own niche build on it, right? So I was doing edible fruit trees and perennials. But one of my daughters liked flowers. So she was propagating heirloom roses by starting the cuttings, putting them in little mini greenhouses until they'd rooted well, potting them up, and then selling them. And those heirloom roses were beautiful little roses. And she would sell those on the side. And she would start some houseplants and she would sell those on the side. And then my other son had the cactuses. That doesn't, we're still pulling in the money. If I started saying, you kids could do mulberry trees. Mulberry trees were one of my best sellers. I'm not I don't want to compete with an 8-year-old, because every day people will buy from the 8-year-old first. I will be destroyed.
Right.
Right now I have a rich 8-year-old who I set up with the entire nursery space. I set up with the farmer's market fees and everything. The 8-year-old's just making bank. And I'll be like, hey buddy, can I borrow some money? We got to get some rice and beans for mommy to make some food this week. I don't know, Dad. Keep asking money. It's I'm not gonna do that, but the kids were able to actually help, and sometimes too for kids that were not doing the propagation to resell or to do that or didn't go, I could say, hey, would you guys clear this area? I will pay you all $10 an hour to finish this for me, because I absolutely have no time to get that area cleaned up. So if you get that area cleaned up and get some nursery fabric tacked down nice and even, we can put in more rows of trees there when I go out next week and I get the materials. You know, so sometimes I could just hire them right out of the family business. Then they've got that extra money. But usually when they get money too, I encourage them, like, how can you make more money off of that money? You're going to buy assets, don't buy liabilities as much as possible. That's great. Sometimes I've also paid them in silver. So I would buy like a tube of silver coins, right? So each one of those is worth about $30 right now. Yeah. So you did 3 hours worth of work, silver coin, or, you know, $30 in fiat Federal Reserve currency. It's up to you. And so some of them will just say, I'm just going to put the silver away. And I started doing that some years ago when they were little. And so they have a little, you know, they get a little stash that they can put away. That's great. But then there's kind of like, there's the potential that will inflate and hold, you know, maybe its value over time better than just sitting on cash. When I was a kid, we just saved paper dollars in jars. But I feel like, you know, if I could get a tube of Mercury dimes or something like that and just pay it whatever the current value is, you know. Right. Yeah, it's great. And they have another way to save money that maybe will float over inflation at some point. Yeah. Yeah. And it's, you know, it's teaching them to save. It's teaching them about real money and hard currency. And it's, you know, it's an inflation hedge, and it's protecting that transfer. And by the, you know, some people complain about gold and silver by the lack of liquidity, but there's value in that lack of liquidity. It's a pain in the neck to sell it. Yeah. Yeah. Especially among kids, you know, like, oh, well, I'm not going to spend this because, you know, it's going to cost me to convert it. So I'm just going to keep it and it will appreciate. So there's a lot of great lessons in all of that. And that's what it's all about. It's about using all of those small opportunities to teach that lesson. And then as time passes, that's when the children really learn, is retrospectively when they look back and they're like, oh, that's why Dad offered me the silver coin, was because, you know, when he gave that to me, it was $15. Now it's worth $30. And I mean, that wasn't that long ago. Right. And I learned that from one of my uncles when I was a teenager and I visited him, and he said, well, you know, when I was younger and they stopped it with the silver coins, I just bought up as much as silver coins as I could get from the bank, you know, and it paid usually about the price of the coin. But then, you know, they've gotten a little better over the years. And it was like, at that time, it was worth about 4 times face value or something like that. So like the silver dime was worth about 40 cents. So from the time he had put it away, it had been about 20 years and it had gone up 4 times. So from me looking back at it now from that point, which was like, I'd say I was a teenager, so it was like 25 years ago or something like that. It's gone up to about 20 times face. Yeah. So, you know, so like a dime is like worth $2 now. And I'm looking and I'm like, his kids inherit all of that just because when he was young and he saw that they were switching over, he was a teenager when he started buying them. And it's like, you know, it's kind of, you see and I was like, wow, that really stuck with me, that if you bought something that held its value, you don't have to deal with inflation. So even like buying a good tool or something like that could hold. But it was just like one of those little things that stuck with me. What if you could save long term? I guess if you people find gold coins from 400 or 500 years ago and it still has value to it. But if you had like Confederate paper, I don't know, you know, continental currency, that's nothing. Yeah. Yeah, that's neat. That's a great little tip. Yeah. And Junior right now is super into coin collecting and looking for, you know, junk silver and buying coin rolls. And so that's a great hobby. That's literally that hobby. If you're doing it through the bank, that's a zero cost, because you can just keep recycling your coins until you get something that's if you're lucky, you'll hit it. You know, you'll hit somebody's got some half dollars out there that they turned in. Yeah. You know. So you got
10 kids, one on the way, and you got your garden going. And so then you probably got some older children. How old is your oldest?
My oldest is 18.
18. Yeah. Same as us. Yeah. And is she the one that's been running the Etsy store?
No, that is my second born. She runs the Etsy store. Yeah.
Yeah. And she's been doing that for a while now, doing seeds and whatnot on Etsy.
Yeah, she's been doing, I think it's about 2 years now. And now that we have land that we actually own, she has built out a garden space of her little test beds and grow out beds to grow seed for this next year. So she's actually got more space now. She doesn't have to just kind of borrow off of my garden. She's built her own sections.
That's neat.
That's cool.
And if I have too much of something too, I'll just let her take it and run with it. But people will write me and be like, how do I grow such and such? And I got it from your store. I'm like, that's not even my store. I mean, I'll mention her store occasionally, but I don't make any money off of her store. I'm just like, here, look at that. Go give it to her. She's building her own business, and she's got great reviews. She spends a lot of time illustrating and shipping and like writing nice notes to people and all this kind of stuff. And she was like really diligent at it, and it's a lot of volume sometimes.
That's great.
Especially in spring. I mean, like she'll get 100 orders in a couple of days, and there she is. She's just like packaging seeds, writing them out, packaging seeds, writing out, and just like taking bundles to the post office. So I've been proud of her because she ran with the gardening thing, and that stuck,
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, that's really neat.
That's cool.
Yeah, and that's converting nothing into something, really. You already have the garden. You just allow these things to bolt and go to seed and whatnot, or you collect and harvest the seed, and then you convert it. And that's the power of, and that's what we started doing here with fruit tree propagation and just rooting cuttings and doing air layers and grafting and different things like that. And
as the price goes up on everything, I mean, it makes it more and more, it's like totally possible to make like a whole lot of money on it.
Yeah. And then Matt said, let's do the food forest in a box, and he developed the box and the label and all this stuff. And, unfortunately, when you're dealing with a lot of people on social media, and you could just get like a rando that's just like, oh, yeah, I want to do that, and they don't understand that there's a lot of skill. I mean, some things root very easily, but there are skills involved too. And so there are no guarantees, but
especially with live plants, and also sometimes shipping time. I mean, people have written and been like, none of my seeds started, and it's like, well, there's so many reasons why that might have happened. But
exactly. There's like a trillion.
I know my daughter does regular germination tests to make sure that things are working. So I don't know what you did, but I don't know. Go ask her. But yeah, there is something there. So this year we are relaunching the nursery business. So I have a local business as well, so I can get out of the having to do everything online. It's great to be able to do it online. Yeah. But if I have a bunch of stuff going, if things get a little rougher, I could have a local business as well. Yeah. And we'll just work with local farmers markets and stuff. That way we don't have to pay for all the liability of having a storefront. And
exactly.
I could just be like, hey, I'm going to be at such and such a farmer's market. Yeah. Come see us.
Yeah. And, and that's the power of your local economy and your parallel economy, and just working within your community to provide value and an exchange. And, and that can bleed over into all different kinds of things. And at least, you'll be the one guy at the farmer's market that isn't selling like handmade soap.
Right. It's amazing. That's something I got to say. It's amazing when you hear people are like, I'm going to start a homemade business. We're going to make, my husband has always liked woodworking, so we're going to make wooden beer steins. And I'm going to make doilies. And it's like, and then, but they don't even count like how much labor goes into it. And
nope.
I've seen so many. I'm an artist. I'm going to do a bunch of paintings and bring them to the farmer's market. Who are you? Nobody wants to buy your art. They don't know who you are. You know how you get successful at being an artist?
Oh man.
rich people.
That's right.
What you do is you go to the rich neighborhood, or you go to the yacht club, and you set up an easel and you start painting pictures of the
That's
rich
right.
people's boats, and somebody's gonna come by and go, "Oh, look at that! It's it's Ocean Breeze too. That's my buddy Phil's boat. Hey Phil, look at this girl over here painting a picture of your boat. I gotta have that. How much? $550. Okay. I mean, that's how you do it. You don't go be like,
Yep.
I always liked bunnies and I always liked aliens, so I like to make like bunny aliens, and then they're like so cute. They're $5 a piece. Yeah, I don't want that. I don't care. Where's the CBD? I don't know. I mean, people look at whatever. Oh, look it over there. So it's like they don't care, right? So if you got something that's actually, if you're selling produce, I used to have my plant booth where I sold a bunch of trees and edible vegetables. So you get the gardening people, you get the plant people, you get the preppers. There's multiple overlaps, and then the people that just want to grow food, or people that don't trust the system. You get all kinds of crazy batty people, and then some like really solid people. Oh, I never saw that tree before. Oh, that's awesome. I need one. You get all these kind of people, but they set me up next to a produce vendor who also had a local farm. And he had a farm and he would sell off of Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. He was a black guy, and he had like his all the people that he knew from his community would come over to him, and then the people that wanted to come buy the gardening stuff would come over to me. And then while they're there, I'd be like, hey, check out Tim's got some really good collards and such this week. Check it out. And he'd be like, dude, if you want to grow this, you got to talk to David. So the two of us next to each other, we both had local economy. We had totally different group of people looking for different things. And then, at the same time, everybody would come and just kind of hang out, and it was things that people actually needed. It wasn't like it was soap. I mean, yeah, you need a certain amount of soap, but
Sure.
You don't need 10 people selling soap.
it wasn't like loofahs that have been cut into the shape of frogs, or like, I mean,
So
stuff.
true.
It's like, yeah, that's so
Not practical.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's got to be something that people need.
That's
or
right.
if you're gonna sell art, you better be like very personally excellent at selling your stuff, and you wouldn't want to be at the farmer's market anyways. You better go right to a gallery or have the most exclusive looking WordPress site that you can get, the works of so and so, and it better have some sort of regional interest or something. Or you better know how to paint portraits. If you know how to paint portraits, you can always get work.
Yes,
pet portraits. I'll be like, why don't you paint pictures of pets? I don't want to paint people's pets. That's like, all I want to do is my bunny aliens.
That's like painting their kids.
That's why you're broke.
Right.
That rich lady has a chow chow with a cutesy little face. If you know how to paint that, she's gonna tell all of her friends.
It's worth $1,000.
$1,000, man. I'll paint that chow chow.
All these great ideas.
So great.
Just like that, ideas turn into money.
Yeah.
So true.
Well, this has been great, David. This has been an excellent conversation. I hope that everyone that listens really starts to consider their own personal economy, their family economy, and look, if you're older or you're single, you need to go find a family, right? It's all about loving your neighbor and creating community and creating a parallel society. Unfortunately, since postmodernism and, we live in this modern deconstructionism of at least, well, it's definitely appears to be global. We really have to put in extra effort to rebuild community, rebuild family. In a very real way.
Poisonous and difficult.
Yeah, reject this rugged individualism that, I mean, there's an enormous amount of merit to it, but it just got extrapolated to an extreme that was very cancerous and destructive. And so a lot of work has to go in to fixing that and repairing it and restoring the way God intended families to be and designed them to be. And, you know, and what that'll do is that'll solve the ills of the rest of society. Like, for example, nursing homes, you know, it is my intention, Lord willing, as we continue to grow and grow our family economy, and as whoever decides to stay and build their house, you know, at some point in time, they're going to need to take care of me and their mom. You know what I mean? And that's the intention. And hey, look, I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to raise you. I'm going to help you start whatever businesses you want to start. I'm going to guide and direct, and I'll work with the CPA, and we'll do anything, all the legal stuff and all that good stuff. But at some point in time, there's paybacks, you know, and if dad ever gets like our current person in the White House, and maybe I'll need a diaper or something, you know, and I can't change my own diaper, I'm going to call upon you, son, and you're going to have to change your dad's diaper.
Yeah, I mean, that's why would you hand that over to strangers?
Exactly.
I mean, yeah, it's not pleasant to have to take care of people like that, but also we're not told to live lives that are only personally pleasing to ourselves and the things that we want to do. That's how you actually end up miserable.
Yeah, and a narcissist.
Constantly try to be selfish. You know, if I am not having a good day and things are not working out well for me and stuff is not going well, one of the best things I've discovered, and my dad told me, he's like, start praying for somebody else and get your mind off of what your problem is or what you're worrying about, and reflect it, or call somebody and encourage them, or even better, like go volunteer and do something. I mean, even if you just go walk into town and pick up trash by the side of the road and pray for people's houses as you pass the houses, it's going to reset your mind to be doing something that's outside of that feedback loop that's telling you, you know, oh, it's not working out, oh, it's not good, you're going to fail, you're not going to have enough money, blah, 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 blah. Okay, stop thinking about yourself and just go do something to help somebody else.
That's right.
And it'll reset you, you know?
Yeah.
Don't get stuck on it.
Yeah, that's great advice. And, you know, that's quintessential to, one, you know, the current state of affairs. Two, raising children is incredibly challenging. And it's very challenging. I mean, I don't have to tell you, David. I mean, you have 10 kids, and, you know, you're I mean, we have 6, and we're like, everybody looks at us like,
hey, 6 is awesome.
Here comes the weird homeschool people, you know?
Yeah.
But,
you have a van? You have the van?
We used to have the you know, the big Ford van. Now we have the little, we squeeze everybody. It's like a clown car. We squeeze everybody into the Honda Odyssey, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
They just see us pile out 8 people.
Yeah, and it's just like,
and they're like, you all fit in there? And we're like, yep, we do.
And y'all need a TV.
Yeah, we don't have a TV. We always tell them we don't have a TV.
Yeah, that's your problem. That's your problem, and that's the solution.
No idea what causes it. No. Oh, I heard this before. Yeah, but I mean, it's like each kid that comes along, you realize it's like It's a Wonderful Life. What would life have been like without this child?
Yeah,
and it's not like there's a hole. You wouldn't even known the hole you're missing if you just had 2 kids and you stopped. If you think of your 3rd child and your 4th child and your 5th child, and what a blessing and what a beautiful child you were gifted with, all of the memories that you share, the birthdays, the picking blackberries, all of these wonderful things that you've done with this child. And imagine if that child had never existed. If I had bought the life, like when we had our first 2, we had a boy and then we had a girl, and I called somebody in the family and said, hey, we had a baby, it's a girl. And she says, well, you've got your boy and your girl, now stop.
Wow.
First thing she said, not congratulations. It was, now stop.
Crazy.
And I was like, wow.
Yeah, it's so crazy.
Do you hate your kids?
Yeah, for real.
Like, you know, 2, that's
So
good
selfish.
enough. I mean, God says that they're a blessing. So if you trust him and you say, yes, they are, each one of the kids that's come along is hilarious. Like last night I was at a baseball game. Two of my sons are playing high school baseball. They were able to get into a Christian school as, like, you know, the homeschool adjunct or something. They allow a certain amount of homeschool weirdos to go play on their So my kids are in there playing, and I am watching my 1-year-old who has really gotten good at walking, and now she's just like spinning around in circles and like running around in the field and stuff. And it's just hilarious because she's cracking up at like silly stuff. Like this kid's rolling a ball by and she's just laughing and then trying to catch the ball. And this little boy rolls the ball the other way and she runs the other way. And it's like, I could have been standing here by myself without this hilarious little tub of lard girl with a big shock of blonde hair, you know? And I can't imagine. Like, would I erase her? No, I'd never erase her. Like, you know, I'd do anything to protect her. But you don't realize what you're missing until you have it, and you're like, I could have had a huge gap. And it was a huge blessing to have so many kids.
And then you think about that, right? Well, homesteading is so hard, and it's just me and my husband, and we had one kid, and Johnny moved away. He went to college, and now
I think he's in IT.
Yeah.
He's 38. He's not married.
Yeah.
He's really good with yo-yo tricks.
Yeah. But we don't have anybody to help us, Well, I mean, and hey, not everybody, children are a blessing, and not everyone is
not
capable
of
having children.
Yep.
But the people that can and don't, I mean, it's tragic. And it's in large part, well, it's why we have a shrinking demographic, and it's why society is collapsing, and that a lot of that's been socially engineered. But it's incredibly fascinating to watch that most of it has been self-inflicted, and it's just a psychological restraint. Just like you said, the family member that said, "Oh, you're done now, right? You had one of each, Well, and you can't even say that anymore." Because because now we actually
I don't even know what I had. Honestly, I can't say.
Welcome to postmodernism.
It's so true.
Clown World
like
2.0.
That's like Pontius Pilate said. What is truth?
That's right. We don't know anymore.
I don't even know. You know what? I'm not going to say.
Well, this has been a great conversation. Hopefully we can do this again sometime. Yeah. And I think that this was there was a lot of great insight here, and I hope and pray that it encourages folks. One, encourages you to have more kids. Two, encourages you to find solutions and not problems. And three, talk about wealth creation, right? Just like you were talking about with your 1-year-old daughter and being at the ball game, right? And experiencing that is, look, if you had $5 in your pocket, right? And that was it. Like, that's what you had, right? And you're there and you're enjoying your 1-year-old. I mean, the wealth, the wealth of that, that's completely discounted and discarded. And I mean, well, you're crazy and weird and don't have a TV, but the wealth that people miss out on by just accepting what is socially acceptable today, and what has created this psychological problem with society that we don't even know basic genetics anymore. But this has just been
it's funny. It's not something that I would normally talk on. It's interesting your wife wanted me to talk on it, because I feel much more comfortable talking about gardening and composting and that sort of thing. It's like, because I don't feel like I have all the answers. It's incredibly like parenting. I mean, everybody hasn't gotten out of the house yet. I might not have it right. You know? And it's like day to day. Some days feel like, it's all together and it's great. And then other days it's like, oh, this is never going to work.
This is why we got to talk about it.
We should have never had any kids. We should live in a condo right now. I could just be drunk on the beach. But now I have to figure out, no, I mean, it's really.
No, but it's like, if you think about it, right? It's like, well, the only preacher that can preach God's message is the perfect preacher, right? Because
there's nobody that can preach.
Right. Yeah, because he's not infallible. So he might not have it all right. Well, that's why we have to have this conversation, because there's so much hope and there's so much encouragement in people just willing to have the conversation. And, nobody is like nobody on here is saying if you only had one kid, like you're terrible or you were part of the problem. I mean, for all we know, nobody even knows. For all we know, that is you could only be capable of having one child. That's what's so peculiar about. There's so much presumption in our reproduction process. It's so presumed. It's kind of incredible when you think about it. Just like presuming like, oh, well, you're going to stop now, right? So many people have said to us, so are you going to have any more? I'm like, it doesn't appear like it. I didn't start it. I can't really stop it. I mean, obviously.
Asked so many times, are we Catholic? Like so many times that I'm seriously considering converting.
Just gonna get rid of
I'm like, you know what? I just want to say yes.
Actually, you're right. Yeah, I am now.
I'm more Catholic than any Catholic I have ever met. I'm just going to convert. If they like kids that much, you know what? Well, Hail Mary. So.
Well, there we go. We offended somebody else. So our mission is complete. But I give up. I think that these conversations are so important, and unfortunately, people have been trained to get offended. And hey, listen to the conversation. Take what you can take out of it that you can build upon. And if you're offended, get over it. And it's things that offended me 5 years ago, I don't even care about now. I mean, that's another thing that we have to teach people is like, something that we said might have offended you, but in the reality and the grand scheme of things, it might not have offended you 10 years ago, and 10 years from now, you might see things totally differently. So that's why we should have these conversations. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's got it all figured out, right? And we're just sharing ideas. We're sharing different things that have worked, and we're also sharing things that haven't worked. And, it's all with the hope of helping and encouraging someone else, because we all struggle. We all have to weed the garden, and we all have to do the work. And it's great if we can encourage one another. So I hope we did that today. And I want to thank everybody for watching. This is a value for value proposition. So if you do enjoy the type of information we put out, we greatly appreciate David being on the program. Please go to TheTexasBoys.com and check out our awesome unvaccinated organic honey or some of our merch. Maybe you want to go green and compost a globalist. You can do that, or check out some new t-shirt designs that Matt has made. But we love y'all. We appreciate all of our customers.
Go check out David the Good on YouTube. He has
all of his information will be down below, and he has written several awesome books. So you'll be able to find his information there to purchase his books. And once again, thanks y'all for watching. We'll see y'all in the next video. Bye.